Hello and welcome to this episode of the 2 Cent Sport Podcast. My name is JR and I'm here with my co-host, the marvelous Joey Thompson. How you doing, Marv?
Hey, what's up, JR? I'm doing good. How you doing?
Living the dream, man. Another day, another dollar.
Yes, sir.
I want to get started by mentioning this podcast is brought to you by Ringer. That's RINGR.com. And visit ringer.com/2centpod to get your podcast started and save up to 25%. I also want to mention to follow our Facebook page, 2 Cent Sports, and at 2 Cent Sports Pod on Instagram to make sure that you're following along with us during the week. And we're going to be doing some giveaways here soon. And as a thank you for listening to all you guys. So without further ado, let's get into it. I want to start with this. I think all of us have had an argument, maybe with a parent or with a spouse or a girlfriend or husband or with a friend. And in the end, you realize that you weren't arguing about the same thing. You were arguing about two different things. As humans, we're prideful. Maybe we don't want to admit that or say that, but you walk away and you realize it. LeBron James' Lakers are officially eliminated from the playoffs. I think everyone can agree it's at least time to put the GOAT conversation on hold. But I want to end it forever. I want to not only just end it forever, but I want to do what I think is the impossible, or what many thought was the impossible. I think I've come to a resolution to the argument that will allow all Jordan and LeBron fans, at least sane and logical ones, to lay down their weapons, become friends, and enjoy greatness. And I think this argument is just like that argument that you have with your spouse or with your friend. It's two completely separate arguments. Let me explain. MJ is the GOAT, but LeBron is the M-tote. He's the most talented player of all time. And let me explain what I mean by this. On the court, there's two aspects to a player. They're human beings. They're not robots. I know we watch it, and it's an entertainment product, and it's production. And we think, oh, yeah, just go out, shoot the basketball, make it. What's wrong with you? You should do it. It's easy. But there's a physical talent aspect to it and a mental talent. And I don't think that there's any doubt LeBron is the more physically talented player with a more developed game than Jordan. And let me give you, I have four reasons. His size and strength. LeBron is 6'8", 260. He's much bigger than Jordan. He's stronger. He's faster. He's just a freakish specimen that we've never seen before. He can finish at the basket. He could do anything. He can plow through a wall. It looks like he should have been an NFL tight end, or he could have been in another life. So that's number one. Number two is court vision. There's nobody in the game that's not only been able to score like him, but have the vision on the court to put up assist numbers like he's putting up now. He's putting up 8 or 9 assists this season in his 16th season. The guy doesn't miss anything. He's always been a pass-first player, almost to his detriment. But he certainly has better court vision. So that's number two. Number three, along with his size, he has the ability to rebound. I know Jordan was a guard, and that wasn't necessarily his game. But LeBron, again, averaging nearly a triple-double in his career with 8 to 9 rebounds per game this season. And last but not least, number four, his three-point shooting. I know some of you are going to say it's a different era, but I'm dealing in facts. Michael Jordan couldn't shoot a three. If you brought Michael Jordan's game into today's game, there wouldn't be much to work with there. There really wouldn't. It's a shooter's league now, the way the game has evolved. LeBron evolved with the game. Many other players in his era did not evolve with the game. I'm looking at Carmelo Anthony, but LeBron evolved. He couldn't shoot. He came into the league. He couldn't shoot, and he developed that shot. That's something Jordan never did. And I like to think of it like this. If I could create a super specimen in a lab and control them like a robot, like a basketball robot, shoot, maybe like 2K, where I'm pushing the buttons, I'd use LeBron as the blueprint. No question. Go play 2K. Which one would you choose? I'd choose LeBron. He can shoot better. He's faster. He can finish better. You all know, without a doubt, you go play 2K, you have to win this game. It's for $100,000. You're going to choose LeBron, unless you're incredibly stubborn. I don't even want to go there. But like I said, that's not all there is to basketball. Jordan was undoubtedly a combination of extraordinary talent and extraordinary mental toughness, unlike anything we've ever seen before. And that's what makes Jordan the GOAT. The GOAT, by definition, in American sports is often the most relatable player. And by relatable, I mean it's somebody that the common man or woman can wrap their arms around because they worked for and earned their talent, much like many people, many Americans today who work hard, earn an honest living, and they want to see that in their television and in their sports. And you know the story of Jordan. He was cut by his high school team, and he was, kind of the underdog a lot of times, even though he was the second overall draft pick. He was a hard worker, and people respect that. Think another parallel. Think about Tom Brady. He was undisputed, who was the undisputed NFL GOAT. He's supremely talented, but he's not the most talented. There's been more talented quarterbacks than him. Jordan and Brady alike are easily the toughest mentally and worked harder than anyone to achieve their success, unlike LeBron, who was anointed king the first day that he showed up in the NBA. And I think that's what turns off a lot of people in the Jordan camp. But here's number two. The number two reason why, aside from the definition of the GOAT, Jordan was by far the better defender in his career. Why? Because at an NBA level, they're all world-class athletes. They all can jump out of the gym and run faster than a gazelle. Defense isn't a talent. It's work. It's moving your feet when you don't want to. It doesn't show up on the stat sheet like scoring. It's putting your mind to stopping somebody no matter what. No matter what happens, that guy's not getting past me. That guy's not shooting over me. That's the mental toughness, and that's why Jordan has the edge. That's why he's the GOAT. Here's another thing that I've noticed in talking to people about this issue. The GOAT is defined by traditional American values, and it's a traditional American argument that's gone on for decades. Who's the GOAT? It goes on in multiple sports. That's why you see a more conservative, often older group, in my opinion, tending towards Jordan, where you have a younger group who tends toward the LeBron camp. If you think about it, why this conservative group tends towards Jordan, Jordan was all about winning. What principle defines traditional conservative America more than winning on the scoreboard? I'll wait. We have a conservative president whose mantra is winning. America's undefeated in world wars, another, albeit more satirical mantra of conservatives. Do you have more money? You're a winner. Do you have a bigger house and faster car? You're a winner. This is what's defined American culture. By this winning metric, the favorite of every Jordan fan, the 6 for 6 argument, Jordan is undoubtedly the GOAT. And that's why I'm saying he is absolutely the GOAT. And I don't care, LeBron fanboys, who he's played. He's 6 for 6. He didn't fail once. It was a different era. I know the athletes are better now, but Jordan is 6 for 6, and you can't touch that. And that's what counts in the GOAT argument, the more traditional argument. But is it just me, or does it seem at times MJ, he's a little crazy and a little miserable? He's definitely a little psychotic. If you've ever read his trainer's book, Tim Grover, Relentless, those guys are insane. Michael Jordan said, if I ever see you again, he said to Tim Grover, if I ever see you again, this was after his retirement, if I ever see you again, I'm going to shoot you. I mean, those guys are nuts. They went and worked until everything hurt, and they came out successful, but they were nuts. I don't think there's any question about that. Michael has a certain element where he's like Citizen Kane, if you've seen the world famous movie back in the 1940s, where he's built this Xandu estate, this grand estate in the lonely ivory tower, where no one seems to be able to enter his world. He seems a little bit aloof and separated. And that's what it's taken to become the GOAT. He's different. He's a different cat. He's a different human being. But gambling and drinking, not habits of a happy person. Divorce, it's common, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it's not a happy time. During his Hall of Fame speech, he's taken shots at every person that he can. And recently, even this season, as owner of the Charlotte Hornets, he's being petty and answering questions that weren't even asked of him. He was asked about Harden's 30 points per game streak or Westbrook's triple doubles, and he says 6 championships. But that's what it takes. That's what it takes to be the GOAT. But I want to get back to that M-tote argument. While Jordan is the GOAT by quantifiable metrics in the traditional GOAT argument, I don't think there's ever or ever will be any debating that beyond this. Settled and done and over. That's why the M-Tote, most talented of all time, or maybe some would even call him the MS Spote, most successful player of all time. In modern America, for many young people, there's a lot more to success than just winning on a scoreboard. I think that's why a younger, more progressive crowd incorrectly categorizes LeBron as the GOAT. LeBron is not the GOAT, but LeBron is undoubtedly the most talented human being to ever play basketball, not only on the court, which he undoubtedly is, but off of it. He has 3 championships on the court and 4 MVPs. He's been to the NBA Finals 8 straight times with a dumpster fire in Cleveland. One of the worst sports cities, one of the worst owned franchises ever. LeBron has been arguably MVP for 15 of 16 seasons that he's played. They've basically changed the way the award is voted for to the most outstanding player instead of the most valuable, because he's undoubtedly been the most valuable and they can't give him to him every year. So that's just on the court. But let's look at his talent off the court. He's a business mogul. Beats, Blaze Pizza, Clutch Sports. He's basically taken over the power brokering of the NBA through that agency. He's a Hollywood actor and many more things I can't even mention because there's so much going on. He's happily married with 3 kids. He's a fashion icon. Agree with him or not, he's a political activist. He has a voice most athletes never had. I'm undoubtedly forgetting something. Like I said, there's just too much that LeBron has done in life and in sports for us to even get it into a short segment here. But see, the problem with these things is they aren't as quantifiable or as simple as the 6 for 6 argument. That's one sentence. But these are the reasons why LeBron is the most talented and most exceptional human being to ever play the game of basketball. By the way, I'm not endorsing either the conservative or progressive platform or mindset. There's a place for both in society. It's what makes this country a great place to live. That's why I love MJ. I grew up a Bulls fan and one of the biggest Jordan fans ever. I had posters all over my walls. I still have more than 10 pairs of Jordan sneakers 2 decades after he's retired. Jordan is iconic. There's a lot of positives everyone can learn from MJ and how he conducted himself, his mindset, and how to win. That's incredibly valuable. And I'll be the first to admit I was a late adapter of LeBron. But for all the reasons I argue LeBron is the M-Tote, there's so many. He's an incredible basketball player, and more importantly, he's an incredible human being. Like any human, he's certainly flawed. He's not a god. He has some baggage, and he has some other negatives that you can nitpick all day. But I think all of us should strive for greatness, to be more like LeBron, just like we should all strive to be more like MJ in the same ways for the reasons that he's the GOAT. Let's stop it. Let's all appreciate greatness. Let's learn from it. It's rare. It's precious. It's something that can never be taken for granted. Enjoy it. Don't fight about who's greater. Enjoy greatness. Marv, I want to bring you in here. I know you've always been one of the biggest LeBron detractors that I know. You've been pretty fair about it. But tell me more. Tell me why.
Well, let's put it like this. I've been following LeBron since his sophomore year in high school, back in 2001. I was a big fan of LeBron since high school. I watched him on ESPN2 where they started, for the coverage on him, and when LeBron was pulling up in his school in a Hummer H2, and LeBron was being treated like the king from day one. So he started getting all the attention. So I jumped on early on onto the bandwagon. I was a big fan. I had all his jerseys, his cards, which I still have, his high school card. But then LeBron came into the NBA, and I started seeing a different LeBron in a way. Is when the Cavaliers started losing, LeBron would look, kind of, how I say, detached from the team. The same attitude he's portraying today with the Lakers was the same attitude I saw LeBron portray versus the Celtics when he was losing. I believe it was Game 6 or Game 7 in the series versus the Celtics, which was his last game as a Cleveland Cavalier. before he did the big show and took his talents to South Beach in the summer of 2010. See, that's when I started losing faith in LeBron, and I started, how I say, detaching myself away from LeBron and becoming more of a LeBron hater because I thought that, to me, growing up watching Jordan play, I thought, well, greatness is you stay on one team and you build a team and you win championships consistently with one team. And so I was used to that kind of, uh, how I say, that kind of model. But to see LeBron, go ahead and run away from the situation he was in, which I understand the roster at the time was not that great. I mean, his best teammate was possibly, uh, what's his name? The guy he lives over here in PG County. Uh, is it Deontay? I keep forgetting his name. Could you help me out with that, Jay? I
Uh,
forget his name. The one that was
is it?
dating his mother.
Oh, Delonte West.
Delonte West, there you go. Delonte West was his best teammate. Let's put it like that. That's how bad it was.
That's
Which
pretty
I,
sad.
which I kind of, I sympathize and I did feel bad because one year they did get swept by the first year LeBron took the Cavaliers on his back and carried them to the finals. They got swept by the Spurs. So, I understand the Camel's back broke and he just couldn't take it anymore. So, me being a big Knicks fan, on the day of July 8th, which it is my birthday as well that day, LeBron James went on live TV in the backyard of the New York Knicks and goes and says he's going to South Beach. Now, being a big LeBron fan, longtime LeBron fan, you could tell how I felt at that moment. I felt like my heart was ripped out of my chest. Being it was my birthday, one. Two, he flirted with the New York Knicks for multiple months during the offseason before he made his decision. And three, I felt that, it wasn't fair that he went to Miami and built a super team. Now, I maybe, I was being a little hard on him as I look back at that time. Nowadays I do appreciate him a lot more because I felt he redeemed himself, at least in my book, a little bit when he went back to Cleveland and brought the championship to Cleveland on his back and turned Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love into relevant players. Now, now that he's in LA, it's kind of hard for me to bash the guy because I kind of feel bad for him because, he's worked so hard to get to a certain point in his career. And now, things are starting to look like 2007 all over again. And, I believe that was probably the last time what was the last time the LeBron James missed the playoffs? I think it was 2004 was his first year in the league. So it's like deja vu all over. It's like he's starting all over again. Yet he's 34 years old. He's on a team with a bunch of youngsters and guys. Maybe he may have caused his own, I would say, downfall in a way, where he alienated his teammates during the trade discussions with the Pelicans for AD. I'm not sure, but recently I've been watching some of his games and I'm seeing him sitting like 5 seats away from his team. And that's kind of, not the LeBron I remember. I remember LeBron being, a leader, a guy that, he leads by example and he makes all his teammates better. And when his teammates are feeling down, he, brings them up. That's the LeBron I remember. And even though I hated on him, that's one trademark that I did, trait from him that I did appreciate, that he was a guy that made everyone else, morale go up. Even if they weren't the greatest players, he made them better. And I feel this year he kind of took, a step back in what he's, we're normally used to seeing. And I've become, like JR has mentioned, I've become more and more unbiased with him. I'm not, the biggest LeBron fan, nor do I love the guy, but I can, I see him with unbiased eyes, and from what I'm seeing right now, I'm not liking what I'm seeing. And a lot of people right now could probably, like JR mentioned, can argue, okay, so now maybe I'm gonna, take what I said back and not call him the GOAT anymore. Basically, he's still putting up great numbers. If you look at his numbers, he's averaging about 27 points per game. Like JR mentioned, about 8 to 9 assists, about same amount of rebounds. It's just, it seems he's just, how I say, playing for himself at this point. And I don't know. I think he just lost control of the team he's playing for. And that's one thing that Jordan never lost during the years that he played for the Bulls. He always had control of every situation. He controlled his teammates, he controlled his coach. Everything, everything Jordan did was, straight down the line. And that was an example, we all grew up seeing, was a guy who was always in control and never lost control. And right now I'm seeing LeBron, he's losing control, and that's something, that's not looking good for him and his legacy. And a lot of people are going to, are questioning him now, and he's taking a lot of heat. Let's put it like that. And I'm actually, I feel I'm sympathizing with him now, because I'm like, whoa, like, I mean, what do you think about what's going on with LeBron right now, Jr.?
Well, you mentioned LeBron's numbers, and they're incredible. They still are incredible. But by that metric, averaging 27, 8 or 9 assists, 8 or 9 rebounds, is somewhere in the middle there. Well, that makes me, is Russell Westbrook the GOAT? Is Oscar Robinson the GOAT because they average a triple-double? These are meaningless numbers, and I think it disqualifies him from the GOAT conversation, like I said, forever. I really think it does, and I don't think I'm not. It's not that I don't think. I know that I'm not trying to bash LeBron, and I'm not trying to step on those that root for him like myself and appreciate him. I should more so say appreciate him than root for him. But it takes him out of the GOAT conversation, but it puts him in his own conversation for all the reasons that I said. Do you not agree with that?
No, that's correct, and you hit it right. You hit the nail right on the head with, the information you gave regarding being the most talented instead of being the GOAT, and all those points you made were clear, and I agree with that. That to me makes a lot of sense, as being where, as a society, we're used to winning. If you're winning, that's what's more important than putting up stats. At the end of the day, let's put it like this: 2015 Super Bowl, the best team in the NFL that year was the Carolina Panthers. The Denver Broncos uh, won the Super Bowl over a 15-1 team because they were hungrier that day and they were playing harder. And at the end of the day, it wasn't pretty. They won ugly, but they still won. And that's one thing, how I put it. If you compare both franchises, one franchise is not used to winning, the other one is. And at the end of the day, when you get to the Super Bowl or to the championship, winning is all that matters. It doesn't matter how pretty it is. And I think that's something that, LeBron and Jordan, if you LeBron and Jordan, if you compare them, Jordan, many years that he won the championship, he didn't win pretty. You watch a lot of the highlights. It always came down to the line: a game-winning shot, fadeaway over Byron Russell, things like that. It was, grinding it out, hard defensive plays, and it can't. It's not always going to be pretty, but at the end of the day, championships is what people like, and if you're putting up numbers, people a couple of years down the line, ain't nobody going to remember the numbers you put up. They're going to remember how many rings you won.
I want to end this segment with this, Marv. I got to know, if you're ranking players all time, you got 1, 2, and 3. Who are they?
You might be kind of angry with me right here, but I'm going to go Jordan, Kobe Bryant, and then LeBron James.
I can't say I'm angry. I think that's a fair point. You got Kobe, which is a whole different argument, who has the 5 championships. I'm going to take LeBron number 2 and Kobe number 3, just for all the reasons that I highlighted. LeBron has certainly fallen on some difficult luck, but that does not make any excuses. By luck, I mean the competition and some things that he's faced in his career on the court. And that's why I put him as as number 2 because he's all around total package, certainly much more talented than Kobe Bryant, in my opinion. But there's certainly a strong argument made for Kobe, and that could be for another day. But I want to shift to this. In life, you almost never get exactly what you want. That's why you should always set your sights and your goals high. If you ever listen to the most famous motivational speakers, Tony Robbins, or maybe one of my favorites actually for a podcast, shout out the podcast MFCEO by Andy Frisella. If you want to become a millionaire, you need to set your goal at 10 million. If you want to make 10 million, you need to go out and try and make 100. You can't just set your goal at 1 million and not reach there. It's the whole shoot for the sky and land on the clouds, or shoot for the stars, I should say, and land on the clouds. And if any of you have ever been salespeople, you know this principle very well. If you want to get a customer a product that costs $1,000, you start to pitch with something $2,000, and that $1,000 product seems much more palatable. In listening to the sports media this week, it's come to my attention that no one, or at least very few people, understand these principles. The Leveon Bell contract was a good deal for both Leveon Bell and the Jets. While everyone seems to be mocking him for what he said in the past, he wanted quarterback money, he needed to make $60 million to play for the Jets, or he just laughed it off. It was simply a start high technique. Let's get back to reality here, folks. This was a good deal, and here's why. Todd Gurley getting $40 million guaranteed last year was crazy. It was insane. That was a stupid number of guaranteed money for running backs. And you look at a guy who just got 35 guaranteed over 4 years instead of the 40. In my opinion, that's still too much for an NFL running back. You look at any market, the stock market, for example, it's called a market correction. And that's a very minor market correction. He's still getting $35 million guaranteed. And it's a ton of money, especially for someone who's been suspended and is not the most trustworthy person or teammate by all accounts. This guy was driving down the road and told a police officer he was high. Obviously, lacks a little bit of judgment there. And in the NFL, let's not forget, the contract numbers are funny money. So you can say X quarterback makes $200 million or whatever the highest deal is right now. I don't have that number in front of me, but it's $35 million guaranteed for a running back. That puts his career earnings at a guaranteed $50 million with the 15 in the bank, or the 15 in earnings that he already have. That's a great living for anyone, and this isn't his last contract. He'll only be 31 when he's done with it. Yes, he sat out for a year and passed on $15 million guaranteed in that season. I have 2 comments on that. One, this was a calculated risk. If he got injured, there's no way the wear and tear on his body, even with over 400 carries a season, that he got $35 million guaranteed. That's $20 million more. And 2, if I'm his agent, I have a strong argument going forward that that year means nothing. We no longer age in terms of biological age, in terms of the number. The aging in sports, thanks to the new technology in sports medicine and all the physical personal trainers we have available and athletic trainers, if you didn't put the wear and tear that year or that season on your body, it's like it never happened. We have players aging like you've never seen before and playing longer in every sport, and science developing every year. So if I'm his agent, it's like, look, yeah, you can tell in his next contract, yeah, you can tell me he's 31, but he sat out a whole season. You look at the wear and tear on his body, it's much less than that. So I don't think he lost anything by sitting out that year. Now, Marv, was this a good contract for the Jets and for Le'Veon Bell?
Honest to the truth, I believe at the end of the day, Le'Veon Bell got an excellent deal. Now, why I think he was, throwing out those numbers that he said he wanted to get paid like this, and most likely wanted to make, let's say, 16 to 17 million a year. I think he was just doing that to troll the Steelers. He just wanted to find a way out of Pittsburgh, and I feel that that's, to prove it to them that he did not no longer want to play for the Steelers. He sat out the full year, which in this case turned out to be perfect for him because it ended up benefiting him money-wise, and also he was able to preserve his body, like you mentioned, and now he may have even, extended his career because of the 1 year he sat out. So in reality, it's a win-win situation for Le'Veon Bell and his agent. So I feel like this was an excellent move by Le'Veon.
Yeah, and let's not forget, like you said, in terms of him sitting out, let's not forget the DeMarco Murray contract situation with Dallas. He was on his contract year. He went out and he was a good soldier. He played. They gave him 400 touches and said, thanks, but no thanks. We're no longer interested. So the idea that Pittsburgh was going to pay him a bunch of money, no, they were going to use him up to the last drop, and then they would have went into contract negotiations with another team, and they'd say, hey, your guy just had 400 touches last season. He's a little banged up. Not sure how much we can give him. He's been around for a while. He's getting up there in age. He's 27 years old. I don't know. That's pretty old for a running back. So they would have given away their high ground, so to speak, in negotiations. And I think that would have been a horrible place to be. I think the entire media is completely missing the boat on what that 1 year means. I think more important than the contract, which was a good contract mathematically for all the reasons I highlighted. The more important thing is I'm sitting here listening to people like, oh, he set out 1 year, he lost that $15 million. He got stupid money, 35 mil, something I wouldn't pay a running back. The Jets is certainly a different situation where you can make a strong argument for it with a young quarterback and tons of cap space. So they had the money and they had the quarterback that they want to develop, and it'll certainly help him. But I don't see the relevance or any bit importance. Like you said, Marv, I think it might actually help him in the future and right now in terms of being fresh and earning extra incentives that are in his contract, because his contract is worth just south of $60 million. So he can earn a lot more than that if he puts up and he's not injured. So I think it's going to be a great contract for him. I think it'll be a good contract for the Jets because the contract length isn't extremely long and they should have plenty of cap flexibility with a quarterback. Marv, where do you think this puts the Jets next season with a young, who I believe to be promising, Sam Darnold, Le'Veon Bell, and they've added some other players, I believe, on the defensive end whose names are escaping me right now. Where do you think this puts them in the AFC East?
Well, they added C.J. Mosley to the defensive side, so
Yeah, that's what I was forgetting.
That was a major upgrade on the defensive side. They lacked, great linebackers last year. So, and plus they have the third pick, so they can keep adding to that defense that struggled last year. Now, I think it puts them as the second best team in the AFC East, being as the Dolphins' starting quarterback is Fitzpatrick, and it looks like the Dolphins are not looking to win this season. The Bills are still the Bills. Their record's going to depend on what Josh Allen shows up this year, if he progresses and gets better. But I don't see that, happening this year. I think the Bills will be about the third best team in the AFC East, which would then leave the Jets in second. Now, if Adam Gase can coach that team up to his full potential and help Sam Darnold take that next step in the sophomore year, maybe they can compete a little bit with the Patriots to give them a run for their money. I'm not saying they're going to win the division, but at least, they can give them a few scares here and, put up a fight with them because, the Patriots are getting up there in age. They're a very veteran team, but of course they're coached by the best in the business and do have the GOAT playing at quarterback. So it's going to be very interesting to watch the Jets as they progress during the season. And I like what they're doing. Unlike what the Giants are doing, I like what the Jets are doing. And if you got the money, hey, spend it. You got a young quarterback, provide him with all the weapons he needs, and just help him progress in his second year, and maybe the sky's the limit for the Jets in the next couple of years.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not a fan of paying my running back that much money. I think it's too much, but this is a case where I can certainly see making an exception because there's an exception to every rule. And for all the reasons that you mentioned, but I want to highlight the fact that I really like Sam Darnold, and I think that he's going to be a very good, if not great, quarterback in the NFL. And this certainly helps his development. Like any player, these guys come to the NFL and they're all super talented. But what really hurts you is if you get to the second year and you have not gained confidence, or I should say your confidence is shaky, you start making bad decisions and it's just a downward spiral. So I do believe that the Jets are certainly going to be competitive. As I've said to you many times, Marv, I think Adam Gase is certainly an underrated coach. I don't think he's, Belichick or anything, but I certainly think he's underrated. I don't think the Dolphins should have fired him. I don't think – go ahead.
I was going to add a point here. This is the best quarterback Adam Gase has coached in his career since Peyton Manning. And I remember in the past you've mentioned that Sam Darnold has Peyton Manning traits. So imagine that. If Sam Darnold is half of what Peyton Manning is, he's going to put up some great numbers.
Yeah, it's a great hire for them. They got incredibly lucky to work with a quarterback coach. And, Gase has worked with, other than Peyton Manning, he's worked with Jay Cutler and Ryan Tannehill. It's been a disaster for him in terms of the position. And let's not forget, Belichick got fired before he got Tom Brady. So I think that goes missed by a lot of people. So I certainly think the Jets are going to be competitive. One last question before we get on to the next thing, Marv. Will the Jets make the playoffs this year?
I haven't taken a look at their schedule, but since the AFC East is pretty weak, I think with a 9-7 record, they might be borderline. They could. I mean, the AFC, the sixth and the fifth seed are normally, well, actually, the sixth seed is always up for grabs. So they have opportunity to make it as a wild card. The Patriots, as long as Tom Brady's still there, it's going to be tough to unseat them from the AFC East championship or AFC East title. I mean, so I, I give them a good opportunity to make the playoffs. If all the puzzles and all the pieces they just added to the puzzle fit, and everything progresses as the season goes, and they win the games they're supposed to, they can make the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that they have a chance to make the playoffs, very outside chance. I would put them at probably 8-8, just on the outside of the playoffs looking in. But looking at the future, I really like what the Jets are doing. I think that they are going to be in the hunt for a long time to come with Sam Darnold, and getting him extra weapons is certainly of help. I want to shift to this. We're going to bring the mock draft. It's finally mock draft time. Our mock draft is given to you by our NFL resident expert, the marvelous Joey Thompson. First on the clock, we have the Cardinals. Who are the Cardinals taking?
Alrighty, so as you've been, if you've been paying attention recently to the news, Cardinals have been infatuated with this guy from day one. And once they went ahead and hired a coach who openly said he loves Kyler and he would take him with the number one pick, the fire started growing and growing, and normally people say, no, it's a smoke screen. It's no smoke screen anymore. It's a forest fire. So I got the Cardinals taking Kyler Murray at number one with no surprises there. A lot of mock drafts I've been seeing lately, everyone's agreeing with that. Cardinals are taking Kyler Murray at number one.
Am I wrong in saying, quick question, am I wrong in saying that he would not even be in the top 10 in talent-wise, but it's just a fit piece here? Fit for the Cardinals?
Yeah, I think the Cardinals, what they're trying to do is they see a guy who can fit their offense, also a guy who's going to bring a lot of excitement to a franchise that's been lacking that the last few years. Recently, their last couple quarterbacks have been Carson Palmer and a bunch of nobodies because Carson Palmer has, not been able to stay healthy for the last couple of years. And of course, they had Rosen last year, who started a few games, and unfortunately, they weren't successful at winning much games with him because of the lack of weapons around him. So what they're trying to do is now they're trying to usher in a brand new regime with the new head coach, new GM, new coaching staff, and so they're looking to bring in a guy that they believe will fit their offense and execute it to perfection.
I think you make a great point. I think it's about fit. I don't think it's about Josh Rosen. This is just my 2 cents here. I don't think Josh Rosen was the problem. I think whoever gets him next after they trade him is going to get a steal for the compensation of second or third round picks that I've been hearing, which is just crazy. I really like Josh Rosen, but I do like Kyler for the fit. On the clock, number 2, San Francisco 49ers. Who you got?
I have the San Francisco 49ers drooling at the mouth at this pick. They're surprised that the Cardinals went ahead and took Kyler Murray and let Nick Bosa slip right into their lap. San Francisco makes their pick in a heartbeat, and Nick Bosa is the pick. This guy, he didn't play much last season He preserved himself after an injury that occurred after the first game of the season, which was a smart move by him because he knew he was going to be automatically a lock for a top 2 pick. So I have Nick Bosa, the little brother of Joey Bosa, which we've already seen in the NFL. And that guy is a monster. He cannot be blocked. And his brother, many people say he's pretty much the same player, almost a carbon copy. So you already know you're going to be getting a starter from the get-go and possible future Pro Bowler Nick Bosa.
Yep, proven bloodline. I've heard a lot of experts saying that he's better than his brother, Joey. So I think that's a great pick for the 49ers. Now on to our previous topic, number 3, the New York Jets.
Now, one thing I noticed before I made this pick for the Jets, they tried to sign Anthony Barr, which at the end of the day, he got cold feet and pulled out of his deal. And I felt after that, the Jets didn't really make any other moves in signing an outside pass rusher. So I have the Jets taking Josh Allen out of Kentucky. He's linebacker, pass rusher. This guy is a freak of an athlete. He's long, he's fast, he has some good strength. I didn't really pay much attention to him during the season. I didn't watch a lot of Kentucky games. They're in the SEC, but they're one of the not the greatest SEC teams. But anytime I did see him play, let's say against Alabama or any other major teams, Josh Allen's name was always being called upon. So he's one of those guys that he rises to occasion in big games, and I think he would fit well with the New York Jets as an outside pass rusher that they are lacking right now.
Yeah, I think that's a good pick. They need the outside help. If I'm building a defense, I build edge rushers, cornerbacks, and then back to the middle. They need a defense. They need somebody to keep their offense on the field. I think that fits, and I think that's what they'll do. Now on to number 4, the always interesting, on the clock, Oakland Raiders.
The Oakland Raiders. All righty. My biggest nemesis. All right. So this is going to be the biggest surprise in the draft. Wait for it. Now, during the Senior Bowl, John Gruden got to watch multiple quarterbacks. And there was one quarterback in particular John Gruden grew fond of. And that quarterback is Drew Lock out of Missouri. Now, I may sound crazy, but just seeing the way John Gruden was gushing over him and how he spoke about Drew Lock and how Drew Lock mentioned that he would love to play in the AFC West and get to face off against his childhood team, the Kansas City Chiefs, twice a year. I said the only way that's going to happen is if the Denver Broncos or the Oakland Raiders draft. Now, a lot of rumors lately have been swirling that the Raiders are really interested in Kyler Murray. But if Kyler Murray's not there and John Gruden's still looking to add a quarterback, I have a feeling he's going to go call Drew Lock to be his successor to Derek Carr.
Well, to clarify, I think I speak for everyone listening. That sounds insane. But I believe your sources. I believe it can happen. I've heard all about John Gruden's infatuation with Kyler. I'm not sure he reaches for a player that's much different than Derek Carr. I don't know. People dog Derek Carr way too much. I don't know what it is. I don't know why he was a Pro Bowler or just on everybody's radar as the next best thing, and then he just disappears. He hasn't had much help. He's had no offensive line. I personally think that they're going to go somewhere else, but don't be surprised if it happens. Marv said it first. On the clock, number 5, Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Alrighty. So this is a no-brainer for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You get to the 5th pick, and the best player on the board is still there. And that player is Quinnen Williams out of Alabama, nose tackle. This guy is a freak of a monster athlete. I mean, I was watching the other day him running in the combine, and they put him against, I believe, let me see, who was the quarterbacks? There was a few quarterbacks that ran the 40, and Quinnen Williams outran both of those quarterbacks. Now that's to me it's amazing how fast this guy can be and how good he is. And he's a big guy. He's about 300 plus pounds. He reminds me a lot of Aaron Donald, and he has that same motor. And I mean, he's always collapsed in the pocket. And imagine if Tampa Bay Buccaneers can grab this guy and put him alongside McCoy and keep adding to their defense, Tampa Bay, can possibly build something on the defensive side because they had a lot of struggles last season. I think Quinton Williams would be a no-brainer for them.
I think the fit, I think you nailed the fit. He's one of the better talents, if not the best talent in the draft. And he certainly fits the bill. Put him next to Gerald McCoy, and you got a crew to be reckoned with. The pairing would be incredible. On to number 6 on the clock, the New York Giants. I feel like this is what they should do versus what they're actually going to do question. Who are they taking, Marv?
In my mock draft, I'm going to be, how I say, smart about it. Hopefully the Giants are smart about it. You have a 38-year-old Eli Manning who's not getting any younger and is not getting any better. You still have Saquon Barkley. Please get this man a quarterback that could throw him the ball and make some plays down the field. This pick has to be Dwayne Haskins. I mean, there's no other options. You have to take your quarterback now. I mean, if you keep waiting and waiting and waiting, you're going to be left at the, like I always say, you're going to be left at the prom with no date. And this has to be a no-brainer. You got to take Dwayne Haskins. He's the best quarterback, at least out of the two that have already gone before him. He's actually the best pocket passer and most accurate quarterback out of the 3, and I would take Dwayne Haskins if I'm the New York Giants.
Like I said, what they should do, what they will do. I mean, what they should do is what you said. What they will do is a whole other question. Like I said in our last episode, he's my number 1 quarterback in terms of just a raw prospect talent-wise. There's also scheme fits that make Kyler a better fit for the Cardinals and a better pick for the Cardinals. But, man, they should be jumping all over him, and their franchise is about to run amok, and they're quickly becoming one of the worst teams in the NFL, and they need to do something to address it. Now we get to number 7, the Jacksonville Jaguars. They seem to have locked up their quarterback position. All the quarterbacks are off the board. Who do the Jacksonville Jaguars select, Marv?
Well, this one was a tough one for me. I really had to really think hard. And I came up with Noah Fant, tight end out of Iowa. Now, it was tough choosing between him and his teammate. And then at the end of the day, I went with Fant because I feel that Fant, has more game-breaking speed. And the Jaguars need a pure, how I say, pass catcher with speed, game-breaking speed. And Fant, I felt, fit that bill. Now, if you watch game tape on, what's his name, Nick Foles' last couple seasons with the Eagles, he loves to throw to the tight ends. And if you give him a really good tight end, it makes Nick Foles' life pretty easy. And I think Noah Fant would be a perfect fit for them because they lack talent on the outside and they lack talent at tight end. Before I changed this pick earlier before I had DK Metcalf, but I thought that was too high.
I was going to ask
receiver.
about that. That's who I was thinking of for them.
Yeah, I was leaning toward DK, but then I thought about it and I was like, more logically, because lately these tight ends have been shooting up the draft board, and I think Fant could be the first one that comes off the board to the Jaguars.
Yeah, I was certainly going to give some pushback mainly on DK Metcalf because I thought he should be in that position based on the way your draft is going. But I certainly hear your logic on Nick Foles wanting to work with tight ends or heavily relying on tight ends. So, hey, if it makes your quarterback work, then it works. Take him off the board. I like the pick. On to number 8, on the clock, the Detroit Lions.
Detroit Lions, recently they've been, they have a defensive head coach. And one thing that stuck to me is their defense did struggle last season. The whole team in general struggled last season. But I think the best player on the board that they should take would be Montez Sweat. He's also another guy who's a freak of an athlete. Plays the defensive end position. I believe he ran, a 4.4? I mean, the guy he's blazing fast, and he's a workout monster, and he played really well in college. So he's been shooting up the draft boards. And Detroit, I think they need a lot. So I think that's going to be a perfect guy they could put on the opposite end. Did they re-sign Ziggy? I'm not sure. I think they tagged him. So if they put him
I believe they tagged him.
Yeah, if they put Montez Sweat at least on the other side, they'll have a nice little duel. Now, if they don't, come to terms with Ziggy and get a long-term deal, Montez Sweat, of course, would be his successor in the future. So I think that would be a good pick for them.
Did you see that crazy stat on his 40-yard dash? They had a graphic, and he outran Odell Beckham, and he was on par with Terry Cohen. Just all these guys, I can't remember who they were, all of them, but this guy plays defensive line, and he's faster than Odell Beckham. Great pick for a defensive coach.
Yeah, I did see that, and I was like, wow, that's amazing.
I like the pick. I'm sure many of you all saw it. Just a quick note here. We're going to number 10. We're going up to number 10. So we're on number 9. We're going up to number 10. We're not going to do the whole mock draft. It gets too difficult and too long-winded to predict every pick. But we're on the clock. Number 9, the Buffalo Bills.
Number 9, the Bills. So you got a young franchise quarterback. What better way to, help your franchise quarterback come along and have a long, healthy career is by adding offensive line help. Now, I was back and forth on which offensive lineman I'd like best for the Bills, and I ended up choosing Jawan Taylor, tackle, I believe, out of Florida. I felt he was the best fit. A year ago, the Bills, if I'm not mistaken, traded away their left tackle to the Bengals for a first round pick. And I felt that if you watch any of the Bills games, they didn't have much protection for Josh Allen. Josh Allen was getting ate alive. Josh Allen at one point was the leading rusher on his team most of the season. So Josh Allen was running for his life. And of course, unfortunately, he missed a few games because he was taking so many hits. And I think the only way to go for them would be start at the left tackle position and take the best possible left tackle available in the draft.
Hey, Marv, if you were a GM of my football team or a potential GM, I'd hire you because here's my point. I think the Bills are going to go with DK Metcalf because everybody thinks, add a wide receiver and it'll help your quarterback, which is true. But how many times do we see top 10 wide receivers bust? And I think the offensive line position is so overlooked for developing a quarterback. Tom Brady's had a star wide receiver once in his career. But guess what? And that was Randy Moss. But guess what? The guy never gets touched because his offensive line keeps him upright. And so he's playing until he's 42. So I love the pick. I would like to see the Bills go in that direction for their sake, but something tells me they won't.
It is the Bills.
It is the Bills. Yes, exactly. So you can send them your smart pick, Marv, but I don't think they'll listen. I think they'll take a wide receiver. That's just my 2 cents on that one, but that's just what I see happening. I don't think there's any way around it. They're going to go Sammy Watkins again, and it's not going to work for them, but they got to do what they got to do. They're the Buffalo Bills. It wouldn't be fun if there weren't teams like them in the NFL. On to number 10, Marv's Broncos. Marv's a Bronco fan. Who you got on the clock?
This is a guy I've been loving as of late. I've been, paying close attention to him. And if you've noticed, the Broncos have gone on a free agency spending spree. And one of the positions that they left open after they released their starting middle linebacker was, of course, the middle linebacker position. Brandon Marshall was released this offseason. And now they have a gaping hole in the middle. So with the 10th pick in the NFL draft, I have the Denver Broncos selecting Devin White, middle linebacker out of LSU. What I liked about him, this guy ran a 4.42 40. I mean, he's built similar to like a Ray Lewis, but a lot of people like to compare him to Roquan Smith. This guy was a former running back in high school, converted into a middle linebacker, and has not looked back since. He was the best player in the SEC, and I think he won the award for best linebacker in the country. So, I mean, to me, when I watch him play, he reminded me a lot of Patrick Willis. And the last time Patrick Willis was in the draft, I was really wanting the Broncos to take him because we didn't have a middle linebacker as well that year. And Patrick Willis won one pick before, and we ended up, I believe, drafting that year Jay Cutler. So I do not want the history to repeat itself, and I would love the Broncos to choose Devin White.
You don't want Smoking Jay back? Come on, man. Take him back. No.
Jay Cutler.
That guy's a legend on Very Cavallari, not so much on the field, not so much as a quarterback. Marv, I want to end with this. I got a couple draft questions to expand on to this mock draft. Number one, my first question: who's going to be the first Pro Bowler in Hawaii, or they're hosting in Orlando now, but
A lot.
wherever they're putting it?
I would say it's between Nick Bosa and Quentin Williams, with Nick Bosa probably having a better shot at being a starter in the Pro Bowl. So, yeah, I would say Nick Bosa.
Another question: who's going to be forget about best quarterback prospect? Who's going to be the most successful quarterback drafted? Who's going to succeed the most and win the most games in the NFL due to fit in the system?
If Drew Lock gets drafted to the Raiders and somehow by a miracle beats out Derek Carr, I would say Drew Lock only because the Raiders are doing a lot to make their team pretty good on the field. They added Antonio Brown. They added a new left tackle. They've added some defensive players. So they've done a lot to, at least get the team better. Now, if they decided to go with Drew Lock and he ended up beating out Derek Carr, I think he would probably have the most success early on in his career. The other two teams, are still in a rebuilding mode. So it may take them a year or two for them to, catch up to what the Raiders are doing. And if you ask me, I like what the Raiders have been doing this offseason. As much as I hate them, they've actually looked pretty smart in the moves they've been making this offseason.
Fair enough. I'm not saying I'm jumping on the Cardinals bandwagon, but I might be. I don't know. That situation intrigues me. I think the Giants are a train wreck and slowly but surely becoming the worst team in the NFL, or the worst run franchise after all such great years of being run so well. You put a quarterback in there. You traded Odell Beckham. All you have is Saquon. They did sign Golden Tate and have Sterling Shepard, but yeah, that's a tough question. But I like where your head's at with the Raiders. It makes sense. I'm not saying I agree, but it makes sense. The last question, Marv: who is going to be the, let's call it, later round steal towards the end? Who's going to be an impact player, maybe a Pro Bowler in those that isn't off the board? I'm not saying what team is he going to go to. Who's going to be that player that's undervalued, but it's going to provide a lot of value to whoever takes them?
A guy I really like that a lot of people are possibly not thinking about right now is Tyree Jackson, quarterback out of Buffalo. He has the prototypical, or at least the size of a NFL quarterback. He's 6'7", about 246, 49, and he ran, I think, a 4.5. So for a guy that runs that kind of speed and has a big arm, I think in the right system and the right coaching, I think down the line, if he gets drafted into the right situation, a couple of years from now, maybe we might be looking at a really good quarterback. I mean, when's the last time you've seen a guy that's 6'7", 250 pounds, runs a 4.5? That's unheard of and has a rocket arm. So he has all the tools. He's a very athletic guy. I think with time, a few years from now, he could be the guy that we could say, wow, that was a steal.
Now, Marv, I know this podcast is becoming a big deal. It's taking off, but did you get John Elway's number? You want to draft a 6'7" quarterback? Is that the thing now?
I mean, that's what John Elway seems like. That's what he loves. He always takes 6'7" quarterbacks. I wouldn't be shocked if he takes Tyree Jackson about the 4th or 5th round.
Is that where you have him going, 4th or 5th out there?
Well, at
in the
first,
value?
when the process started, I was like, well, he's really raw, maybe 6 or 7. But now, as after the combine and his workouts, he's getting some interest. A lot of people are looking at him, so I think his stock has risen at least to the 4th or 5th round.
He's certainly an excellent athlete, and if it didn't work out at quarterback, maybe he can pull a Terrell Pryor. So I want to say thanks, everyone, for listening. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, like us on Instagram, follow us on there, and we will be doing giveaways shortly. I will be putting up on the page what the terms of the giveaways are, so you don't want to miss it. Again, thanks, everyone, for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.